work. So this conversation is going to be among a group of folks that I'll introduce in just a second about this creator economy and how this technology really disrupts the creator industry. With us, we have Roy Sheinfeld. He's co-founder and CEO of Breez. Roy, if you could come up. We also have Michael Tidwell. He's the head of systems operations at Zebedee. Oh, no, sorry, we don't.
Desiree from THUNDR Games.
Excellent. Okay, we'll have them come up. Colin Harper, content and tech at LuxorTechnologies, and our host for the conversation, Anita, Posch. If I could have everyone come up. Welcome, everyone. Excellent. And Des Dickerson of THUNDR Games. Excellent. We have microphones up here for everyone. Thank you very much.
All right, okay.
Here you go. I got 3 mics for you. 4 mics for you.
So we do have Michael from Zebedee sitting next to me.
Yes, and Desiree Dickerson is replacing Adam Curry today. No, not really.
Yes,
so,
I'm sorry to disappoint. I am not Adam Curry, but...
That's not a disappointment, and thank you for hopping in to our panel. Welcome, everyone. The topic is Lightning and the Creator Economy. And for a start, please, I would ask you to introduce yourself. Like, how is your project or product related to this topic?
Sure. So, hey, I'm Michael Tidwell. I work at a company called Zebedee. We do help content creators in a way. We are a video game focused company, but we do have the ability for people to accept Lightning tips if they are content creators through Twitch and Twitter, things like this. So I think that's a good summary.
Hi, I'm Roy Sheinfeld from Breez. A lot of you know Breez from, like, you think about Breez as a wallet. We like to think about Breez as the interface to the Lightning economy. And part of that, we integrated Podcasting 2.0 into our platform, allowing users to send sats to content creators, specifically podcasters.
I'm Colin Harper. I'm the Director of Research and Content at LuxorTechnologies. It's a Bitcoin mining pool in North America. So not related to Lightning at all, but I used to be a journalist at CoinDesk and Bitcoin Magazine, and just always been really passionate about how Lightning Network could unlock, new tools for people to use to, maybe send micropayments to pay for single articles or, stream payments to journalists that they like, things like that.
Awesome. I am Desiree Dickerson. I am CEO at THUNDR Games, and we focus solely on mobile games and really onboarding a mass of people through to Bitcoin through mobile games.
Thank you. So for the most part of Bitcoin's history, it has been a store of value only. So we couldn't do much more with it, and this is still a very important use case. But with the advent of the Lightning Network, we are now able to send micropayments over the internet and directly to content creators. One of these first examples that has got a lot of traction is Podcasting 2.0. Roy, would you please explain how it works and what it is?
Sure. So yeah, that's the key thing, I think. Lightning changes the way we interact with money. One of the things that Lightning can do and Fiat actually can't do, where Lightning is superior to Fiat, is the ability to stream sats, to send small micropayments to whomever. Specifically, in our case, we've integrated with the Podcasting 2.0 platform. Adam Curry isn't here, but Adam Curry is the podfather. He created podcasting, and he's working, the recent years, is working on this platform called Podcasting 2.0, where content creator can register their podcast in the podcast index platform, and then they can actually get sats directly from their listeners. They're using a model called value for value model, meaning there's no enforcement. As a listener, you're not obligated to pay currently the content creator, the podcasters, but it works. A lot of people are streaming sats to podcasters, and at Breez, we've integrated podcasting as part of our app, as part of our interface to Lightning Economy. When you open Breez, you have a podcast section. You can search for podcasters. There are, I think, 2,500 podcasts on the platforms already. and many people are actually making a decent salaries, a decent living out of this podcasting 2.0, where listeners are streaming sats to content creators. There are basically two ways where you can give sats to podcasters. One is when while you're listening, you're streaming sats, you set sat per minute. For example, 50 sats per minute, or even it can go as low as 10 sats per minute. So if you're listening to a 60 minutes podcast, you're streaming 600 sats. Or you can boost. And I think that's also where Lightning is superior to Fiat is actually the ability of Lightning to inherently integrate metadata into the streaming of sats. So you can boost. And boost like it's a one-time, there's a very nice section we liked about the podcast. You boost the podcaster, and then a lot of listeners like to use numerology. I don't know why, but it's a kind of podcasting thing. So you're boosting, and while you're boosting, you're adding a little bit of metadata, a message to the podcasters. So it actually also creates an interaction, a direct interaction between the content creator and their listeners, which is, I think that's the real revolution.
Yes, and the great thing is also when there are many boosts at a certain time, then you know this is a section that people like the most. Yeah, so it's also great as a feedback loop for the podcaster. Yeah.
Exactly. You can build an entire analytics around it, like what users like, what users didn't like. But you're doing that yourself, so can you see the messages that users are sending you?
Not yet, because it doesn't work yet on my Raspberry Blitz, but I see the payments coming in, like every some seconds I see 10 sats or something like that, and some people send 99 sats per minute, and that's great because you see it's working, yeah.
Yeah, I have podcasters that keep sending me this streaming sats, like they're kind of addicted to this flow of payments that are coming in.
Yeah, I'm quite amazed actually to see that the Breez wallet, how extraordinarily easy it is for a user to send sats. That's the great thing.
Thank you.
I know one thing that I think is really interesting, and I know Zebedee is doing some cool work with Twitch streaming, which is obviously super big in the gaming space, but one thing that I think there's a lot of potential with is not only just empowering these creators by giving them new models for financializing their content, but also incentivizing behavior with their audiences. So, I mean, something I've been thinking about is, guild leaders incentivizing their guilds to incentivizing retention for their guilds and different user behavior, but also with streamers, I think there's so much they can do to kind of engage their audience and get their audience coming back and their audience participating in new and creative ways. And I don't know, Michael, if that's something you've been thinking about, but I think there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah, the first time I saw the interaction with Twitch and the community was actually with Flip with Bitcoin Magazine doing the marbles, and Zebedee allows this stuff with the Lightning address, where you can put the Lightning emoji, your Lightning address, and then you can get tipped, either on Twitch or Twitter, and engaging with the community, I know is like what Mandelduck and Chris Moss has been working on and doing various things. Where one of his key mark, or I guess his noteworthy deployment of this is with a game called Bitcoin Rally, where users of people who are watching the stream can actually tip in the game and then either produce power-ups or do certain things that affect the game that people are actually playing. It's like community involvement or interaction with the audience.
Yeah, it's like crossing that barrier, that third wall between the audience and the actual streamer, which I think is really cool to create that moment where it's not oh, hey, someone is streaming and I'm just watching. It's actually almost physically engaging in a way through value, which I think is really powerful.
I just want to say that encouraging a good behavior, that's I think the key for what we're doing here, because basically what we're doing, this direct interaction, this direct monetization between listeners and content creator, like Desiree said, it encourages the right behavior. Why? Because if you're tied to a other monetization model like advertisements or you're dependent on money coming from third parties, then you're less honest with your content. Going away from the ad model creates better content.
Well, and also going back to what you were saying, and Anita, you were saying about seeing which podcasts people really reacted to favorably and which ones really get people going. If you had something like that for just general content around the web, especially written form, it would be a different metric to engage or to gauge, engagement on a piece, right? So like instead of traffic being spoofed, sometimes that's really easy. I mean, you can look at unique users, but even that isn't necessarily always airtight. So you could look at something like, lightning tips to an article, and if you're a news site or if you're Bitcoin Magazine or something, you could really see what kind of content people really favor and what they're willing to pay for and what they want more of.
Yeah, that's a good point, because otherwise you can spoof, views and results to make it look like, hey, I had 1 million views on like YouTube equivalent, and really it's only had like 100 real users. But I had a follow-up. So I used to be a podcaster back when there were no podcasts, because I was bored back in like 2015 or so. But there weren't like any of that great podcasts back then. That's why I filled the void for like a year.
We love your podcast, Mike. It's fine.
My question is, it seems like the data is public on how much tips people are making, or is that private on?
So it's private because the Lightning Network is private. It's
Okay.
up to the wallets or up to the podcasters to publish this information. Adam Curry, as part of the podcast index is the index that hosts all the new generation podcasting 2.0. They get a small cut out of the splits, the podcasting split. So they have a lot of insight on the amount that are getting in from the entire podcasting 2.0 platform.
So I guess what my question is there any public data you can share with how, like, I know you said there's 2,500 podcasters that have like registered with Breez that can be tipped, right?
I can share that we streamed over Bitcoin to podcasters.
The 2,500 number, you can see it on the RSS feeds that have the value tag included. So that's how they count it, I guess.
Sure, but what I guess I'm asking
In
is...
volume.
Is there any public data that you can share with us?
I just shared it. We streamed over a Bitcoin to podcasters.
Okay, so over a Bitcoin, and then out of... Would you say like the top 1 or 2% is the majority of that, or what would you say, or is it pretty evenly distributed?
I would say there are top 20 podcasts.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same as in the centralized world. The big ones earn the most money, and in the long tail, it's less. But at least you have the possibility to do it, to earn money. And the great thing also is the split, the automatical split that you can enable. Like if you have a producer and an editor, you can say like, okay, from each SAT or from each payment coming in, the producer or the editor gets like 5% or 10% automatically. And you as a creator, you don't have to do any accounting or such things.
And actually now there are per episode splits, so you can even pay your guest. If you're hosting someone in your podcast, you can split a payment to your guest, and your guests are incentivized to come on your show.
What kind of other content can be monetized with Lightning now? We have games, we have podcasting. Is there something from the journalism side that you are using or you are looking into?
Not currently. Like Substack has that beta for Lightning payments, right? And I haven't looked into that too much. I don't really know of any journalists in the crypto or Bitcoin scene that are using it. I think those tools will come eventually, but I think one of the things that we have to fix first is this perception, especially in the Western world or in the US, where like people are so accustomed to free content. Like the advertising model has really broken people's time preferences for what they want to read and what they want to, if they actually want to, pay for this content, right? So, even if they go on Forbes and there's a paywall, or New York Times, they just open up an incognito tab and then they get 5 more free articles, right? So I think down the road, what I would like to see is, obviously something like a paywall where you can pay micropayments for a single article instead of paying for a whole subscription. But going back to what Roy was just talking about with something like LN Bits, you could actually have payment models where, the publisher and the journalist or the writer kind of sets up certain terms where whenever an article is paid for, you know, maybe the journalist gets 50% and then the publication gets 50%. Go ahead, Des.
No, there is a cool project that is very new. It's called Stacker News, and it's very similar to Hacker News. And I know Gigi recently did an AMA on there, and I think he had said that he made like $100 just from that AMA. It's very new. It's kind of like a la yalls.org and Alex Bosworth, but it is something that, like, you know, some folks are working on. And then, yeah, I love the idea of like the splitting the streaming payments too. I know Crypto Graffiti had worked on, like, he did a really cool DJ set, and you know, folks could tip, and some of it went to the producer, and I think some of it went to someone else who's kind of in the music pipeline, which is really interesting. So there's a lot going on in that space.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see that specifically, like when Crypto Graffiti did that live set in front of the San Francisco Fed. For me, it was a big aha moment because my fiance Molly used to work at Warner Music Group, and she would do payment processing for like royalties. So, you know, like Drake has a song that's in a Pepsi ad in the Super Bowl, and then someone's got to split that up between all the parties involved. And I used to joke with her that Bitcoin is eventually going to obsolete that job, and like now we have the tools for it, right?
Programmable money, who would have thought?
Yeah, so in that context, I think there are two industries that are completely broken. One is the video industry. The second is the music industry. So when it comes to videos, you can definitely create a better OnlyFans, like streaming videos live, monetizing video live on top of Lightning. I think it will be a game changer, to be honest, because it will be an uncensored, censorship-resistant video platform that you can't censor and you can monetize. It's better for everyone. And in the context of the music industry, the entire royalty model in the music industry is broken. Like, artists can't make a living by creating music. But this Lightning can be a game changer in that regard, that listeners can incentivize artists directly without, you know how much Spotify takes, what's the Spotify cut? It's crazy. It's between, first, there's no transparency, no one knows. So, and then they take between 30 to 50% cut, and actually the money that is left is going to the managers and to the labels, not actually to the artists themselves. So we have to have a peer-to-peer monetization model for the music industry, and I think like that's the things that we'll see evolving in the next year or two.
So we expect to see that on the Breez wallet for music as well coming up soon?
So we want to do videos first. Actually, I see John here on the back. John Vallis is doing a documentary on the Bitcoin beach, on the beach, the boys, right? So how the Bitcoin beach started the Bitcoin revolution in Salvador. We want to put his video on the Breez interface. We want people to be able to monetize their work directly. So you'll see videos, you'll see live videos in Breez, and yes, I want to do something with music as well.
Yeah, I mean, and what we didn't mention up until now is the fact that it enables globally content creators to earn sats, which is huge, like for people in emerging countries, when you earning a little bit and you can earn money from outside your country through digital work and content creation. I think that's actually the networking effect we will see here, the big one. So, but if we change the perspective now and look from a user perspective, so why actually should I throw sats at you instead of spending my dirty fiat for a membership?
I think at least in gaming, especially with mobile gaming, you know, there is a minimum threshold for paying for content, and you know, like, you really can't pay for any content less than $1, especially in mobile gaming. It is probably the lowest amount with fiat that you can spend in game. And so lowering that threshold really, I mean, it enables a much wider user base. If people can stream like 10 sats or can send 10 sats for an in-game asset, or to use an in-game asset, stream those sats. And so I think that's really incredible. I mean, we've seen our community is really amazing, and there's a group of them who have actually, they've actually won 1 sat, 1 Satoshi in the games, and they've created this group, and it's like, they're so proud of this group, and it's called the 1 Sat Gang, and it is like a badge of honor to just have won 1 sat, and I mean, they just absolutely love it, and it really fuels a lot of, you know, kind of their engagement in the game. So it's really crazy to see like how micropayments like really impact in-game economies, and even how people are cashing out from that as well.
And I think too, Anita, to kind of address your question as well, I do think that that requires a little bit of rethinking from people, right? Like I think that Bitcoiners who are like on zero with fiat are more likely to do that because that's what they do every day, right? Like they're using BitRefill to buy gift cards. They're like either in their local economies going to their like local restaurants, spending Bitcoin and things like that. But one thing I think that actually fixes this a little bit is Strike, right? Like if you actually have, if you still have some dollars in the bank and you're not totally comfortable, then you just, you know, you send some dollars to your Strike account. It's a static balance, it never changes, and then you pay with Bitcoin on the back end when you need to. And I think that tools like that, where you basically have like a stable balance in a wallet like Strike, maybe eventually there's something where there's a web plugin, a browser plugin that does something similar, almost like a Tip&Me, except with static dollar balances or euro balances. I think a tool like that would actually kind of unlock this potential more, because that was one of the problems I was always puzzling through when I was thinking about how you could get people to rethink about paying for content, right? Especially with an appreciating currency like Bitcoin, they don't want to spend it so much. But maybe something like Strike kind of makes people a little less uneasy about doing that, right?
From our experience, people like spending sats. Like I don't see an issue at all. I think a key element to spending your sats, it's kind of gamification. People like to it's fun. Like in Breez, whenever you boost, you have this confetti animation, and like people are posting the confetti on Twitter and social networks because they like this feedback that they did something good. And the confetti is fun. But another thing that happens is the feedback look like because they're sending sats directly to the content creator and to the podcaster. What happens is that they have control over the content. And actually there are podcasters during the show, they read like the boost messages from the listeners. So you actually send sats because you want your messages to be read on the podcast. And some podcasters are doing like a leader table where they have the top listeners that send them the most money and so on. So I think this gamification aspect of this economy creates a lot of interest to participate in this economy.
I think you have population bias when you say all of our users love spending sats. Well,
you're right.
It's a Lightning wallet. But I would just to piggyback off of what Desiree said, and you know the minimum thresholds. I think that's kind of important for at least the gaming aspect, because you know when you load up a gaming wallet or whatever, typically with a general game, there's some kind of like deposit $20 or deposit $40 and then you get gems or diamonds or something, right? And with sats, you don't really, depending on how the game developer makes their game, you don't really have those minimum thresholds, and you can put in 20 sats or 10 sats or something into the game. You don't really have that friction of minimums, which I think help in terms of your question of I don't have to send my dirty fiat or whatever. I can send very small amounts of sats,
Yeah, I see it by myself. It's much easier for me to spend Lightning sats than instead of spending on-chain. Because I have like a small amount of sats in my Lightning wallet and I spend it for beer or whatever. And so that's also I think the thing about Lightning, that it enables Bitcoin to become more a medium of exchange, which is great. And there's one thing also I want to add about the podcasting 2.0 thing, like with the Sphinx chat, you have your own tribe then. And so on the one hand, you prevent spam because you can set up an entry fee. So you only have people who really want to contribute to this community and be part of it, which I think is also a great thing. In Breez, will there be something like that?
Yeah, we want to integrate messaging and create communities as well, yeah. I think to what Michael said, no one wants to buy a New York Times subscription, right? They just want to read an article. Lightning enables you to read an article without overpaying something that you're not typically use or typically need. This one-off economy can be supported by Lightning.
Yes, of course, and it's frictionless. Yeah, I mean, I know people are working on browser plugins where you can load your wallet for the plugin, and then you just browse the web and can watch videos or read articles, and you pay by the minute a set of sats, like with podcasting, but just for using other content as well.
I mean, I think one thing kind of outside of this is just, it really empowers users or, everyday people to like curate their own content. Like I think about, I have like a Netflix subscription, like I use my sister's Hulu subscription, like I use somebody else's like Disney Plus, and it's insane that we have these like high thresholds for like just consuming content when I only want to watch like The Mandalorian, you know what I mean? So it's like, if I could empower myself to like curate my own content, like I would, it would be much more cost effective, and I'd be much more likely to, watch things because I don't have to buy like a $10 monthly subscription fee. So I think it also opens a lot more content, and even on the other side, these like massive companies like Netflix and stuff, it's like, oh my gosh, like we might actually get some more users this way as well.
The good news is Breez is about to launch their new product where you can watch The Mandalorian's new season, and it goes directly to the content creators through the Breez app.
Wonderful. I'm sold.
2 weeks.
TM.
So talking about the Breez tech app and your products, how's the user adoption? How many growth do you see?
So how
much growth do you see in your product?
I always get in trouble when I talk about Zebedee, so I'll just get in trouble anyways. Sorry, Andre, if you're watching. But we've been seeing really good growth. We recently have worked with a company in India who has many, I think 100,000 users to pretty much every day collect a little bit of Bitcoin through like mobile games and stuff. We are seeing a lot of people in Latin America collect Bitcoin through our monthly Mint Gox games and some of our weekly events. The cool part is, we talked about, paying content people directly and stuff. Well, I feel like essentially what Zebedee is doing to some extent, more or less, is doing charity direct to people who really need it, and some in some countries where some children of families are making as much as the entire family can make like in a day that the whole family makes like in a month, and they're actually helping support their family. In some cases, I think that's like kind of like a crazy thing where we didn't know we were going to get into that realm originally. So we see a lot of people recently in India, obviously in the United States area, and then Latin America. We've seen good growth, and a lot of people like in the U.S., for instance, it's like, why would I want to play this game for 1,000 sats? I'm going to spend all this time earning 1,000 sats, but then someone else in a different country is like, 1,000 sats? That's as much as I make like in a week, or something, whatever the equivalent is. I'm not good at on-the-fly math, but sometimes these people can win tens of thousands of sats and stuff. But I think that's kind of interesting. So yeah, we've been seeing good growth.
Great.
So I think the cool thing about podcasting 2.0 is the fact that you get the circular, I call it the circular marketing effect, where actually the podcasters become your marketing tool, because the podcasters are advertising the podcasting 2.0 tools and actually favor the podcasting 2.0 tools in compared to the traditional way of listening to their podcast. So people are promoting Breez, promoting new apps like Fountain in Twitter, Facebook, social networks as a mean to listen to their podcast, and that creates real growth. We grew 10x since we've launched Podcasting 2.0, and it's because Podcasting 2.0, we get new users that are not used to Bitcoin, not familiar with Bitcoin. They're being onboarded to Bitcoin because they like their podcasters, and they want this direct interaction with their podcaster. So that's very cool.
That's great. Do you add?
Yeah, at Thunder Games, I mean, we are definitely seeing a lot of growth. Up until recently, if folks aren't aware, it was mostly my co-founder Jack and a contractor who were working on our games. So it was not a huge undertaking, but now there's 2 games we have in both the App Store and Google Play stores, and those have really just taken off with minimal effort. I think before we kind of hit the ground running right now, we were seeing like 50,000 monthly active users, which is, pretty incredible for like a 1.5 person team. So, we have some really fun games in the works and some cool things that we'll be pushing out. But it's really just been incredible to see the community in mobile gaming come to this whole play to earn. And I think, mobile is just an incredible way to onboard Bitcoiners. So 60% of the entire gaming market is totally mobile. So it makes up more of the market than desktop and console combined. I mean, people don't want to be sitting down at an Xbox anymore. They want to be out. They want to be physically mobile, so they have their devices and their tablets. That's kind of what we're seeing, and so I'm really excited to capture those folks and make them Bitcoiners. It's so frictionless. You go to the Google Play Store, you go to the App Store, which is incredibly familiar, and it feels safe to users. They can download an app, never have to spend any of their dirty fiat, which they should, but they don't have to, and they play and they simply earn sats, and they're a Bitcoiner, which I think is just like a beautiful way to bring on this next breed of Bitcoiners, and so we're excited to see some growth around that, but we're just getting started.
Great. Another thing that we haven't mentioned yet, I think, is the censorship resistance of Bitcoin and how it enables people, human rights activists or journalists in authoritarian countries, and we know there are a lot around the world, to earn money and to publish their own content. Colin, can you speak to that maybe as a journalist?
Yeah, I think you kind of summed it up there, though, right? Pretty well. No, it's fine.
Sorry.
No, it's totally fine. I mean, yeah, I think that Bitcoin offers journalists, especially in more authoritarian countries or countries with less freedom of press, to actually monetize their work, because not only can they, maybe they're cut off from their traditional banking rails, or maybe people in their country are not giving them jobs, the media state-owned, so they don't want adversarial journalism. But Bitcoin is a global community, right? So they might be publishing their stuff on, say Stacker News or something like Substack or Medium or, some other website, and they're getting payments from people all over the world who want to have insight into what's going on the ground. The other beautiful thing about Bitcoin, too, is just, the ability to make those payments internationally without having much slippage or much of the money, eroded in fees. My former colleague at Bitcoin Magazine, Aaron Van Weerdum, he's been working at Bitcoin Magazine since 2015, 2016, takes his entire salary in Bitcoin. It's just so much easier than the company having to go into euros, right? Because he's from the Netherlands, so.
Yeah, thanks.
Fix the money, fix the world. Censorship-resistant money creates censorship-resistant content. And I think that's the key. We saw that, by the way, with OnlyFans, with the credit card refused wanted to stop their transaction processing, and they decided to halt porn for a few weeks. How long was it been? I can't remember. But if you fix the money, if these platforms are not dependent on credit card processing, then there's no problem with the content itself.
Oh, sorry, Michael. Can I just jump in just really quick? I don't want to be a Debbie Downer or rain on everyone's parade. Fixing the money definitely helps, but we also have to make sure that we have a backbone for the web that isn't easily co-opted, right? If Cloudflare removes your website, if your domain name server gets revoked, then that's also still a problem, and Bitcoin doesn't totally fix that. Some other, more decentralized, self-hosted technologies might, but I think that's also a piece of the puzzle here.
Exactly. Do you want to add something?
The reason that we have problems with internet domains and stuff like that, it's also tied to the money. because you buy the domain from a specific company, and the specific company doesn't want to be tied up to a specific content. So everything is related. At the end of the day, I think everything related to money.
Yes. Okay, thanks. Because actually I wanted to talk about that. So will we see Lightning payment-enabled centralized platforms or more decentralized platforms on top of Lightning in the future?
Sorry.
Repeat the question.
Decentralized platform, decentralized future, decentralize the world, decentralize...
Everything.
Decentralize all the things.
Okay.
Is that what the gist was of the topic?
I missed the question.
No, the question is like, now we have these huge centralized platforms where content creators can make some money through subscription models and things like that. Will we see these platforms adopting Lightning, so then you just use Lightning for it, or will we see those companies also get decentralized?
So yeah, so I think the choke point is the money. So to answer your question, so if we decentralize the money, then I think this platform will adopt decentralized money, and we won't need to decentralize this company because everything will be inherently decentralized. So personally, I don't think it will lead to proliferation of more like content services. I think there will be disruptors in the market that will create new technologies using Lightning, and then the big tech will adopt Lightning. I think that's the way it's going to evolve.
Okay, anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, I think, right, you and I were talking about that yesterday, where it was, I mean, there is a lot, like we are rebuilding some of, what we're familiar with, and I think that is powerful, and hopefully there is some traction. But I think it's going to kind of be the impetus, like this is coming from the bottom, that users, content creators, they want to use this new currency. They want the features that it enables. And so inevitably, I mean, these companies will start to listen to their users. I mean, we see so much adoption of Bitcoin today, I mean, in the last year. So I think it's inevitable that these companies will be forced, whether they like it or not, to enable and integrate Lightning.
So I know this isn't like content creator company, but NCR, one like the oldest companies that invented the cash register, sponsored TabConf, right? And they're trying to really push themselves into the Bitcoin space. One of the oldest ATM Bitcoin companies or ATM cash register companies are getting into the Bitcoin space. I know you mentioned big tech, right? And I wouldn't necessarily consider NCR big tech, but they are a Fortune 500 and they are a huge company. And I kind of agree. It is a matter of time before you kind of either force their hand into Bitcoin or they end up getting bought out by the startups that are forming now, right? So
yeah, and kind of to piggyback off of some of the stuff that Des said, if you look at kind of the way, just speaking from like a perspective of journalism and for other media, if you look at like what Substack and Medium has done, at this point, a lot of people are more willing to trust a single source, like a journalist, right? Instead of the entire company like New York Times or something like that. And as those kind of platforms continue to disintermediate the big media's power over things, I think that you have, especially with, if we start monetizing through Lightning, because like right now the monetization rails are still stuck on USD and things like that, and they're still kind of caught up in the legacy system. If they, kind of start migrating outside of that, and you have an even greater threat to these big media companies' power and also their advertising revenue, I think eventually they will, if the right tools come around, or like New York Times can get onboarded onto this plugin or something like that, where now they'll get Lightning payments streamed to them for just single articles or things like that. I think eventually they're going to just have to buckle under the pressure, right? Because their livelihood will be at stake. The ad dollars won't be coming in as much because they won't be as relevant, and they're going to be losing out on a lot of money that's going elsewhere to like independent journalists.
I remember talking to one of the C-suite members of NCR like 10 years ago or something, and I remember him saying specifically, it's better to cannibalize yourself, so maybe create a product that hurts your other lines of business than be hurt from outsiders. So I think C-suite people are going to have to make these tough decisions, coming up pretty soon.
So thank you. Last statement from all of you, please. So how do you think does the future of content creators with Bitcoin look like?
The future is very. I think Sats. I just want to make a prediction here. I think Sats is going to be the standard. I think we're going to stop saying this Bitcoin this, and 0.1. I think Sats is going to be pretty mainstream, and I don't see it any other way. First off, I think people like Breez, Roy, and I think Zebedee. I think we're going to be pushing more and more with Sats like things, and I think he alluded to OnlyFans 5 times, and I think we're going to see only Sats pretty here soon, with going mainstream. So I think it's bright. And I also we didn't really mention this earlier. I just want to give a shout out quick to Lightning.page, who also does additional service where I streamed TabConf through Lightning Page, and we actually got tipped through the live stream of the conference. So I hope all Bitcoin conferences use that service in the future. So just.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with Michael. I think Sats going to be the standard. I think we'll find more and more ways for people to earn Sats through the creator economy, through games, through video streaming platforms. We'll see more and more content types being integrated into existing interfaces, and I think eventually we'll see mainstream companies adopting Lightning as a means of payment to content creators. I think that's the future. You can clap.
I didn't get a clap. I'm jealous, really.
A clap for Michael, please.
Just really quickly, because I know we're running out of time. Obviously agree with what dudes are saying over here, and I think that just going back to this, it really does, I think, require people to rethink how they're going to engage with content. But I don't think that's impossible, right? Oftentimes people will say that, or it's oh, well, you just have to get people to pay for things, and you have to get them to think that it's worth paying for. Well, of course. But, it was only, 30, 40 years ago that, newspaper subscriptions were very standard in the United States. Other subscriptions, it wasn't until recently in this digital ad age that people really kind of stopped doing that, right? Or it became a little more difficult to get people to pay for that kind of stuff. So I think it's going to be a gradually than suddenly thing, I think it's going to be eventually more people start adopting these things. It'll start in the Bitcoin community, it'll bleed outward, and then eventually people won't even think twice about it. And in the future, I think ultimately a lot of people won't even really know what's going on in the background, right? There will be tools that are so simple, like a plugin, that they don't even have to think about it.
Yeah, I also agree. Sats the standard. At Thunder Games, that's all we kind of operate in. Our average payout is 10 to 100 Sats. So, it's very hard to think of those rewards in Bitcoin terms. And so I definitely agree with that. And I think what Lightning does, and is something I'm so passionate about, it enables everyone kind of a fair shot. It really empowers everyone financially to, not only become banked, but also become your own business, to become a content creator and monetize everything you're putting out into the world, which I think is incredibly inspiring and incredibly powerful. We aren't even just an Instagram page that gets 10 likes on a picture. Is something that you can actually monetize and make a living with. And so I think that's just incredibly powerful, and it's insane to see what's kind of being built on. There is an OnlyFans now on Lightning. It's called Star Backer, I believe. I just found out, so it's there. I haven't checked it out, but we're really starting to reinvent all the old paradigms, and I think that's just really amazing. I'm so excited to be a part of it with everybody here up on stage.
Exciting times. Thank you very much on the panel. Thanks for listening and watching.